if you see from the beginning, there were critics on this. In psychology, there were so many critical stuff. It's not something new. As a critical psychology, or criticizing psychology, the existing or dominant is existing since the beginning. So it's not something new, not at all. Yeah. And if you go back to the 19th century, there was also some kind of an alternative direction or perspective for social sciences, which came from the social movements. So I said before that the acceptance and the resources for developing and reproducing of social sciences come from bureaucracy and from state power, or from huge institutions like army or others, or factories or also. This was the dominant line. But in the beginning, we had also a different tradition which came out of the social movements, the labor movement, the women's movement, the other movements, which have a different perspective, different questions. The questions of the bureaucracy is, as we said, controlling and helping. And so they need theories, practices, methods who are functional for controlling and helping. The social movement had different starting points. They have different questions, and which were not existent for the bureaucracy. No bureaucracy is interested in subjectivity and why you're doing something, as long as you're doing something. Yeah? And they have no interest in you as a person, because you're you're maybe a man or you're an employer, so they're interested in effects of some kind of policies in a group. And of course, no more bureaucracy has ever interest in thinking how to change organizations. But all the social movements had as a perspective, they started with something which is negative or which is not good, and start how one can organize oneself and how can change society. So the starting questions of social movements were totally different. And in this, it was a process of becoming aware of, needing knowledge of what is going on in society in order to intervene, to make intervention, and in order to change something. But the issue of changing societal organization is a big, it's not existent in dominant social sciences. This is a kind of, an agreement since 100 years that we don't speak about changing society. We speak about changing persons and changing maybe small groups. All the sociology, all psychology is speaking about how to, if something is diagnosed as wrong, then how to make something with Jojo, so to bring him, to put him again on the line, like in the machine, in the factory. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So it's like in a car. The refrigerator is wrong, then you have to make some kind of intervention and put it again. Yeah? There's never a discussion about how to change the society. Maybe the way the things are organized is problematic, so you don't have to change Jojo as an individual, but you have to change the organization. And this is a taboo. This is a taboo. This is not a political taboo, it's a kind of epistemological taboo. Because this, in the way they kicked it out was the axiom of neutrality. Knowledge in social sciences, they have the notion that the knowledge is neutral. So it has nothing to do with values. The values are kicked out. But values are exactly the central point of social movements. Because if you say the mayor of Bitola is an asshole, this is a value. This is an estimation or some kind of position which has values behind it. Yeah? So you can't. This is not a neutral thing. Yeah. So, but the social sciences, following the natural sciences, as they say, they have neutral knowledge. Yeah. Of course, the natural sciences know that they don't have neutral knowledge, but the social scientists claim this kind of neutrality. Yeah? And since the beginning of the 20th century, actually, social sciences are trying to get in prestige and power and resources, claiming neutrality. So we're producing knowledge, so the psychologist is producing knowledge of how individuals are working, and is giving this knowledge to teachers, to policemen, to some other people who will apply it. So the one specialist is producing special knowledge and is giving to some other who is closer to praxis. So if you, in education, you ask psychologists about the development of the children. You ask psychologists about learning, how is learning functioning, and the teachers are called to organize practices in order to apply it, or the policemen are getting knowledge about mass insurrection or whatever in order to control them or to do something. So the central idea is that social sciences are like a technocratic producing knowledge for a machine. So it's a specialist. I have a special knowledge for the refrigerator of the car. I have a special knowledge for some other part of the car. So like this, the society is working as a machine, and the persons and the groups are parts of this machine. And the psychologists or the sociologists are coming and giving special knowledge of how to keep on this machine going, not to change it. But the social movements have exactly this as a starting point. Yeah. So to change something, to change the organization of society, of some relations, and because they have this different, how to say, aim, they have also different questions and different kind of knowledge they need. They are interested in individuals. They are interested in subjectivity of individuals, as concrete persons. They are interested in if you like it, what you are supposed to do or not, and how do you think about it. So we had this kind of how to say potential development. Before the social sciences were got shaped in the 20th century beginning with departments, with diplomas and with degrees and so from 1910, 1920. Before this time, before there was a dominant line, there was a kind of potential different development coming out from the social movements. But this development, there was no. This line was not developed because, as you can understand, the bureaucracy didn't never give money or resources to develop this perspective. Yeah? And the social movements, actually, there were only fragmentary stuff. For example, in my field in education, if you see, there was a very huge teacher movement in Germany in the 20s, and organized trade union teacher movement, and you see this trade, and they had tried to finance and organize all the research about learning process and teaching, and they were quite different from the political, from the bureaucratical stuff. Yeah. So, but it needed strong trade unions or strong social movements with resources in order to have different questions and different methodologies and different concepts. But this didn't happen very much, and especially since we have states, the national state is the basis for the social sciences. So every state is trying to develop his national system of organization, like national education, all this kind, and use and needs knowledge for this national system. Yeah. So since we have now nation states everywhere, this dominant thing is to accept or to have social sciences which serve this apparatus. So, and this alternative path of the social movements is not developed yet. It survived since the beginning of the 20th century as criticized. It being existent, very, very marginal, very, very sometimes only a few people somewhere in criticizing some kind of concepts or theories or effects of the application of knowledge and so. But it was existent. We can watch it, but it was never much more than some very marginal thing. Yeah? But it existed. It existed. The situation changed a little bit the last 50 years, 60 years. not in every country, but let's say in the dominant rich Western countries. So since 50 years, or let's say the Second World War, after the Second World War, the social sciences were not anymore potential help for the bureaucracy. They were already real machines, real part of the institution and they were not only promising something, promising help or control. They were already existing institutions, very powerful institutions. So, and the more organized or the state and the society was in this, the more influence we had about from organized psychology, organized sociology, organized education. The more underdeveloped the states were in the organization, the more weak the bureaucracy was, the less influential was this machines of social sciences. So one could say that, for example, the psychology is since the Second World War is an industry. It became a real industry, which has real effects on society. Less and less decisions, or more and more decisions, were made using this knowledge of psychology, which knowledge is trying to put people to make uniformal. People work, function in a very uniform way. Proper woman, proper man, proper pupil, proper teacher, normal teacher. So this was the basis. So the social sciences, psychology, and others, they produce knowledge in order to uniformize the function of the people. Because this was the notion, the idea of the people participating in the national states. The Gramsci had the suggestion of the Fordism, the dominant form of organization of society, the capitalist society, of course, was Fordism. Yeah? Fordism means a particular way of organization of industrial labor, which has its effects also on the rest of society. So the Taylorist organization of society, of industrial labor, has effects on society, but has also demands of organization of society. If somebody is to work in a Taylorist frame in industry, this presupposes something. Also, and if somebody reads Gramsci in the description from the 20s, he says even monogamy and the way, yeah, even the sexual life of people is not controlled, but in a way canalized because of the demands for this organization of industrial labor. Models, yeah, because working in this way, it demands of certain things. It organizes our life. So, as example, for my working field, but if you see the learning, so what I'm teaching the last years in Saloniki is about learning. So, for us, I think it's really common that when we are young, and then we are going to we participate in some kind of educational measures, and this, which means learning is when the youth is learning. Then we finish learning, then we are adults, and we are working, we are applying, and which means learning is before and after, and applying comes after learning. Our whole life is organized by this way. Yeah. So this is a moment of Taylorist labor organization. That learning is in some other, and learning is in some other place, and working is in some other place. You learn in school or in some educational institution, and you apply your knowledge in some other, in a factory, for example. Yeah? This is for us like nature, but this has nothing to do with nature. This is the modernist, Fordist, capitalist organization of industrial labor. And so, one can read in Gramsci more detailed description what Taylorist or he says Fordism, what kind of demands it has for the organization of life. For example, that even not to spend his time for that, so, but go to sleep and having the wife and man and children at home, and so it demands a particular organization of every day and the life. Yeah. So what happens since the last decades is that exactly this Taylorist labor organization is being questioned. So again, an example of learning is up until now we have a kind of a sequence. First is learning, then is applying. Learning is in a different social space, and application is a different social space. The new demands since the 70s, especially the demands of the new industrial organization, they don't need this kind of sequential organization of labor, and which means learning has if you see how labor is organized in high-tech enterprises, their learning and applying are not separated things. Mm-hmm. They are going together. So which means the way our whole biography is organized. So when I'm young, I'm learning, then I'm becoming an adult and I'm working, and so on. This comes, it's questioned. And this changes also the social relations, but everybody of us can think back. So the young persons, they are learning, have not to work, but they're learning, but they're dependent from their parents. So the parents are working, which means they're not learning anymore, they are not expected and not demanded to learn anymore. So, and they have the dependent children, of course, which organizes the social relations in a hierarchical way. Yeah? I remember my father saying, as long as you put your legs under my desk, yeah? Which is not something because of his bad psychology, this is representing the power relations, yeah? Of course. So, which means becoming an adult in a Fordist society demands from the individuals to agree in a certain way, to accept that you can't develop anymore, you can't learn anymore, you have to work now, and so which means it's a kind of competition between the young who can continue develop, but they are dependent socially from the adults who are supposed not anymore to develop and to learn, but they have some kind of social independence via their salary if they're working. Yeah? So we have competitive hierarchical social relations, or even the social relations between let's say the elder and the younger has to do with the Fordist Taylorist organization of labor. So our whole life has been organized in the 20th century along the basis of some basic stuff of organization of labor, and this is changing. So it means the demands, which are also opportunities in the organization of labor is different. The sequential organization of time and learning and labor it exists, because not everything has changed, but there are new, very, very, very strong, pressure to reorganize the labor, and this changes also the rest. Which means if not the young are learning and the adults are working, what is the alternative? Which the alternative now, and we are living in a transitional period towards neoliberalism. So what will happen, we will see, because we are participating in this, which in this transitional period, everybody has to work, or more and more people has to work. There is for more and more people not a youth period being free of labor, but also the adults have to continue to learn. So the relationship between parents, let's say, and children are not any less and less hierarchical because of this social dependence of the young from the parents, and become more and more competitive, because even the adults are competing compete with the youngs for chances for learning. Which means if you're 30, 40 and have children, or 50, you're not sure that you will go until you pension with the knowledge you have. You have to. It's not clear if it's enough. So which means you are adult. You have to work, but it's also demanded from you to learn, to be prepared. That what you know, it's not enough. It's the wrong one. You have to. So you have to be also young again. But not young in the age, but be prepared to learn. So this is a new thing in societal development, which changes the whole organization of our life, the organization of the biography, the organization of social relations, and of course, if you go back, as the traditional. These social sciences which produce knowledge in order to adapt people to this situation, there are new social sciences in question, in demand now, who will prepare different people working, functioning in this different new neoliberal, basis or forms of organization of labor. So, what we have historically as a new thing is that we have social sciences which are formed following an older model of organization of society, the Fordist one. But this Fordist model of organization of society is changing, though you have social sciences which have to change. Otherwise, they will adapt people to societal model which does not exist anymore. So, and this is something which, from my perspective, in the social sciences, it's not recognized in a lot. So, in psychology, still the people working with this Fordist normality ideas. Yeah? So they try to have people adapt to things which are from the beginning of the 20th century, actually. But society is changing. It's changed, but it's changing all the time. And the important thing is that, as I said before, since the beginning of the 20th century, we have critics. We have a lot of attempts, there are a lot, but they are not dominant, they are marginal, but they are criticizing this mainstream psychology or sociology, saying that this mainstream psychology is only helping people to adapt. They do not contribute people in order to change their situation. So, and they don't take that much in account the individuality of people, because they demand from the persons to function as uniforms, yeah, as a normal woman, as a normal man, as a normal something, yeah, doctor or whatever. So. So the people were not accepted in their differences, and so Marvakis has gone. But as a philosopher, he knows very well that the last 30 years we have one of the biggest concepts in philosophy is the difference. So which means even in philosophical discussions, you have in the last 40 years the idea that difference is important, which means individual difference. So which means that the central demand from society is not to have uniformous individuals, but to accept individual differences. Because neoliberalism does not need uniformous individuals, it needs functional people, and they can be different. Yeah? If you're gay, no problem. As long as you're producing, if you're a strange woman, not serving your man, no problem. As long as you are, how to say, exploitable, you can. So a difference is accepted, and not only accept, which means that central point of critics against mainstream psychology the last 70 years, yeah, pointing out to the individual differences which are important, which are inhuman to expect that all women are the same and all men or whatever. Yeah, it's now we have the problem that this is not anymore critical. The problem is that neoliberalism has it's how to say, it's taking all over this critics and it turned it in functional, it turned it, I don't know the English word, it swallowed it, yeah? It's not anymore critics. So, which means that even now we have to think, not only the mainstream social science have to think about how to serve neoliberalism, but also the critical, one who is not, does not want to serve, but to be critical, has to think again, because the traditional critics is already integrated in neoliberalism. A lot of stuff like individuality and differentiality is central point of neoliberalism. So we are in our historical period in a situation that both social sciences as a dominant mainstream apparat have to change, otherwise there will be just like anachronisms. They will adapt people who are not for this world, they are for the world 100 years ago. But also, which is more important for us, is the critical people who are not satisfied with the situation, who want to change something. They also have to think about how if their concepts and if their practices are still critical to the mainstream, because because with neoliberalism we have to think about what is functional and for neoliberalism, which is not the same for Fordism. Yeah? What was dysfunctional for Fordism is very functional for neoliberalism. So we cannot address the same because there are different potentialities and confinements. Yeah. So this is our situation in historical situation actually where we're living. And as far as I can see, both the critical whatever discussion, also the mainstream does not realize this, do not recognize this change. Yeah, and this is our problem actually. If somebody goes on to psychologist, for psychology is a big problem because in psychology still there is a lot of money and a lot of yes, there's. Compared with other sciences, there's a lot of money to make in research and so, and of course of this totally clinical field in health, there's a lot of money to make even and get money for research. So, and I think the opportunities to make money does not help at all to think again what kind of society I'm serving. Yeah? In a adaptive way or in a critical way. Okay. So just you will apply knowledge to people, whatever. But maybe if you're effectful to help them to adapt, but to what society? To what adapt? And but yeah, what will happen? We don't know because we're in the middle of this discussion, and we are part of this discussion. And the interesting is for us is that because of these historical changes, all this critical, the idea of being critical is more accepted than 50 years ago, even in academia. Not everywhere, of course. I don't know how it's the situation in Macedonia, but even in Greece or in Germany, in other countries. It is not a situation like 50 years if somebody smells that you are not following the dominant positivist model of experimental psychology, then you're out or you have no chance. No, in the meanwhile there are of course marginal positions, but there are some positions and there are books and texts and literature and sources. It's not the same like 40-50 years ago, which means we are in a better position than 40-50 years ago. It's not the development is not only bad. It is not only worse. Yeah, it's also better. So, for example, 40-50 years ago, in academia and psychology, it was almost impossible to articulate something different. But now you can find one can find. Yeah. Different voices addressing different critical stuff. So this is so when we come back to the definition, what is critical psychology? One can say that critical psychology, if you don't want to be arbitrary and just to say your opinion or whatever, then if you position, start with in what society social sciences and psychology developed, and how was the society organized, then one can say that critical psychology, or critical psychologists, because there's not only one, there are several, critical psychologists were all the voices who were like the picking the mainstream normality, yeah? Picking and saying, oh, here with this kind of theory or this kind of practice, the individuality is not served, yeah? So, but we have to look at the persons as individuals, or this kind of this praxis is not doing this and that. So, and we had all the voices who were critical with the mainstream, with only adapting, with having psychology and social sciences and knowledge from social sciences only for adaptation. Yeah? All these different voices where one can name as critical, and which particular voices these were, it depends on the country, the region, the tradition, the philosophy. There are so many different critical psychologies around the world in the meanwhile, or in Europe, depending on the tradition. If you're interested, you can go there. We had made some issues and collected contributions from around the world, and there are online in some journal, in one journal, online journal, which is called Annual Review of Critical Psychology. And if you Google this, then will come to the website, and you can download 70 or how many papers from several regions of the world. And if you read, they are speaking about different traditions, philosophical traditions, political traditions, or regional, some kind of ideas coming from the region in Africa, for example, or in Asia, or some others are have to do with traditions in philosophy, where the language became more and more important. So we have the linguistic turn 50 years ago in philosophy, and this linguistic turn opens the way a little bit also in psychology, so that to take language much more serious, and not only as a linguistic code, but also as praxis, as language as praxis, which means having effects in social organization and life, yeah. And so you have in this line of development, this accepting language as something important. You have in Soviet Union tradition, Vygotsky, for example, is some, but others, but also in the Western countries. So one can try to organize this voice, but there are very, very different voices. And to come to the other of the points of Giorgio mentioned was Marxism, the relation. Of course, you can imagine, one of the lines of critics since the beginning was based, let's say, I have to think about how to say it, but based, or was articulating critique using Marx or reference to Marx or to Marxism. Yeah, and there are also several Marxistic critics in psychology. And then, of course, there are also several Marxistic adaptive, not critical psychologists too. Yeah? Yes, in the Soviet Union, for example, or in the meanwhile, well, one can, yeah, reference. So, which means there is no Marx in psychology. There are a lot of Marx or Marxist or Marxian ideas, perspectives on psychology. Yeah? It depends on how one, what is Marx or Marxism or Marxism for somebody. Yeah? There are different and also contradictory ideas. Yes, there's a line of Marxist psychoanalysis. Yeah, since the 20s actually. So, the Frankfurt School, for example, is one. But not only Frankfurt School, there were other developments also, which starting with psychoanalysis and starting in
Freudo-Marxism.
Huh?
Oh, Freudo-Marxism.
Yeah, Freudo-Marxism, even broader. Even broader. Yeah.
But the nature of the people.
Huh?
The dichotomy that you were talking about.
But this is one thing. But I want to say that there are several notions, several interpretations, several discussions, whatever you would say, of what Marxism is. and these are applied in psychology too. There is not one. Yeah. So my school, let's say, my school is also a kind of development of Marxist psychology, but has a different idea. The idea is not to complement psychology with Marxism, but the idea is to develop, to say, okay, Marxism needs an internal development of a theory which is to apply on individuals. So against the central notion of, for example, from the Frankfurt School, which say, okay, Marxism is economic theory, but economy is not enough. So we need some kind of psychological theory and to put them together. And they had, of course, at the time was psychoanalysis of certain. Even the Frankfurt School, the figures didn't have the same theory, the same idea about psychoanalysis. Erich Fromm is different from Horkheimer and Adorno and others, but nevertheless they say we accept psychoanalysis, but the main idea is to supplement one with the other, which means that they say Marxism is economic theory and we need an individual theory, something different, and this is a very basic philosophical notion that you have two different fields, and you need to think of them both together, yeah. But for example, our school, my school, maybe they say no. You have to start with you have to decide, and it is a philosophical decision. What is the primary, and what is the secondary? What comes second, yeah? And the primary is, of course, the notion about the social. And within this notion, how and the development and the of the social changes also what the individual thing is. And so Marx has developed more in the economic field, in other fields, and there's a lack in individual theory. But one has to do this in congruence with the notions. It's not a supplement. It's not putting things which are contrary together, like psychoanalysis and economic theory, but to try to develop a consistent theory within the Marxian idea of the social. So, but there are, and of course there are several others. But so Marxism and psychology is a broad field, yeah. And there are also some beyond Frankfurt School in German. For example, in German discussion there are some differentiated combinations, let's say, which are, I think, much more developed, much more elaborated than psychoanalysis. The psychoanalytic of the Frankfurt School, but this is a different discussion. But there is a why, and if you see in Latin America, with a different political tradition and different philosophical stuff, there are very interesting. There are attempts from people who were also Marxists and psychologists, maybe or even psychoanalysts, which were, but because they have a different reality in Latin America the last 70 years, they did very interesting other kind of developments and mixtures, yeah. Marin Langer, for example, in Nicaragua, yeah, because they had other society, other problems, and they made other things about. So it's important to look, not to believe that this Marx and psychology or Marx and psychology. No, it's very very broad and very different, yeah. And I don't know. I would like to. It would be interesting for me to see what happens in Macedonia, in Yugoslavia, or whatever, in Balkan, yeah. What if there are any traditions? Yeah, I have one colleague in Belgrade who is, but she is Freudian.
Right.
Yeah, she is Freudian. So and yes, Gordana Jovanovic. So there were, of course, here people in Yugoslavia, psychologists or whatever, and the praxis school in Zagreb, yeah. For example, there are different.
Yes, but they were philosophers, not psychologists. You know?
Yes, but the little bit I know from them or which I read, there are very interesting consequences for psychology. From their notion of what praxis of philosophical questions. Yeah, maybe they have not elaborated on psychology, but what they say and how they understand praxis. And what Marxian understanding they have, it's very, very interesting for psychology. Yeah? So it's still open, to somebody to develop, to elaborate on this, yeah, and say what can someone elaborate out of this, of his tradition. Yeah? I don't know a lot of I know about this school, but and I don't know that. There is some. At least I know a few books from them in German, from the Praxis school. Yeah, but I think it's a very rich tradition. It was in Zagreb.
And Belgrade.
Huh? In Belgrade also.
Also Belgrade. Yes.
I only know the meetings
But-
in Dubrovnik. Yeah.
But Zagrebian Marxist was more loyal to revolutionary thought and idea of Marx. Than these guys from
Texas.
Belgrade. Yes.
Yeah.
And about theory of knowledge, Erkantes theory, you know. But this guy of guys from Zagreb was a representative of Praxis, Marxian idea, and these guys from Belgrade was theory Odras. English.
Reflection.
Reflection.
Okay.
Yes, which was developed by Engels, Plekhanov, and
The later ones, yeah.
Lenin, you know, and there are many differences. I have read a couple of books, but these books are only representing some philosophical point about philosophy and ethics, and they. I think they were a lot of academic. They had a lot of academic engagement, you know, and not that kind of activism and.
Just I can imagine that at that time it was academic, but so my question only, but there are consequences from this kind of philosophical questions for psychology, for a critical psychology, for a different one, yeah. So and maybe interesting for this, for what I said at the beginning, from this potential line of combining social movements with knowledge, which is missing. What we're missing at the moment still is this combination. Yeah, the perspective of the social movements, the knowledge within and from the social movements, and which changes a lot. Like the question of subjectivity, which is not existent and not necessary at all in this bureaucratic, let's say, sciences, or sciences for the bureaucracy or for population management. They don't need any idea of subjectivity. They don't need it. So there's no reason for them to ask about this. Yeah. Yes, but for the movement is very important. Values, for example. Yeah. You can't. You can't think about social movement without values. So, and the idea that knowledge is not neutral. This maybe works for the bureaucratic sciences, but for the social movement it doesn't work, yeah. Because social movement, it's exactly a value thing, yeah. I don't want this mayor because he is corrupt. This is a value sentence, yeah.
Liberal.
Whatever, but it's a value. So the very idea in every social sciences was to kick out the value question, yeah. So as knowledge would be neutral. Neutral to what? From what? Yeah, but it was a trick.
Ideology.
Yeah, but this is the biggest ideology.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but okay.
To make the institution like some kind of machine,
Yes.
that's liberated from ideology, it serves like some kind of cash automat.
Yes, but exactly this means that they have a very particular implicit social theory within it. Yeah, if you argue like this, or which is true, yeah, which means that your social theory is a machine theory. Yeah, it's a technocratic, and this is ideology. So, which means that the technocratic perspective has dominated the social sciences, yeah? And then the idea of knowledge is a technocratic, a technicistic technocratic knowledge, yeah? And this is a very ideological stance. okay, if somebody says, I can understand, if somebody says, I believe that society is a machine, yeah, so then I need a kind of machine theory, yeah, okay then, but if I ask my students, 100 students, they say no, but okay, the problem is, if you say no, society is for me not a machine, but you use a theory as it is a machine, yeah, then you come in conflict, yeah, in contradiction, but in contradiction with your values, with my values, and if you see historically, it was this technocratic, neutral idea of producing special knowledge and giving to somebody else. It was very good for the social scientists becoming workers, laborers, wage laborers. Yeah, of course. If look, yeah, I'm working, I'm getting salary. What is my work? To produce knowledge, maybe research or whatever, or theory. Then I'm not responsible for that. I give it to others and they apply. This is a very, 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 how to say, part of appeasement. And of course, leaving me free of the consequences of my action. Yeah?
Sublime conflict, calculated.
Not sublime, it's a planned thing, yeah? To have to appease.
Psychological.
It's good for my economy, it's good for my emotional economy. Yes, yes. It's but it is a contradiction for us. So, as we said in the beginning, so psychologists are researching about alienation of workers. Yeah, how it is to produce weapons which will kill you. Yeah, but how about our contradiction? Yeah, producing knowledge which is actually reproducing a view on society which I disagree.
Which is not mine.
Yeah, which is not mine. But I'm serving this. I'm serving a purpose which I don't agree.
Yeah.
I haven't until now, I have asked thousands of my students that nobody says that agrees with this machine idea of society. Yeah? But say, okay, what does this have for consequence?
I don't know.
No, I don't want to blame or insult them or say, look, because they ask, what is your opinion? What is your opinion? Say, the point is not what my opinion is. The point is to you to know what is your opinion and why.
Yeah.
And then when my lecturing about learning, I'm not speaking about. It's about learning. So how in learning theory this machine logic is reproduced here. And so okay, the students in Saloniki they become teachers. Okay, what kind of notion do you have about society and what is your place in there? If you think you're a part of the machine, you're the refrigerator in the car. No problem. If you think it's okay with you, but it's not okay for them, yeah. But how about using concepts, theory, parts, fragments, and practices which are against my and here the social movement perspective is a total different perspective as an epistemological perspective, yeah. And this is what we miss. There is a tradition since the beginning. I traced some 1893 in Paris some book which called Anarchist Psychology, yeah, from France. I don't know, Amon. So you see from the beginning, the political issues and the movement issues were very central. They discussed it. But after that, in the beginning of the 20th century, when we have a dominate real machine, we have departments producing, giving diplomas and so. And these were very particular notion of the positivist idea of what is science, what is knowledge, what is application. So then this former social movement perspective, this didn't disappear, but it had no place in this academia actually. Yeah? And despite the fact that I don't like psychoanalysis, one could say, for example, for Freud refused to go this step. This is the only reason why psychoanalysis never find its place in academia. Mm-hmm. Because he was what he was, we can say whatever, but he was a radical scientist and he wanted to go to look how far can I go and where I go with my questions, yeah, with his questions. And for this, he never kicked out the notion of subjectivity. Mm-hmm. But notion of subjectivity doesn't fit in statistics. Yeah. Doesn't fit in the dominant methodological machine in the academia, how it was organized in the 20th century. So Freudian psychoanalysis couldn't couldn't come in academia. That didn't work because the idea of the there is a kind of person, yeah, who is suffering, and you have to see the perspective from the first person perspective. Yeah, this was a classical thing from the classical psychology in the 19th century. Yeah, didn't work with an idea of what is an individual in the modern, let's say, 20th century, which dominated and pushed everything out. There was this domination was not dominating in a field with three other competition. It was taught the others were not science. It was ideology. So out. So there were no place for them. Of course, but this is another thing. Psychoanalysis survived in other fields. Yeah, where bourgeoisie and bourgeois life was much more present. Yeah, in culture and art and so and have rich clients paying for this thing, and so they didn't disappear. But in academia, they didn't make it because academia, knowledge and epistemology in academia was something which didn't.
Quantitative.
Not quantitative only. It's a consequence. No, the idea that Freud insisted or continued to say that I need knowledge. As a psychologist, yeah, I need knowledge from the first person, from perspective, yeah, not from outside. I have to think about theory, how to see the world of Alex from the perspective of Alex, to include the perspective of his first person perspective on the situation. Otherwise, I'm speaking about him, but not from his perspective. Yeah, from outside. This is controlling. This is a control perspective. Yeah, outside means the power, bureaucracy. Yeah. This is so the third person perspective. Yeah, I'm speaking about Alexander. I'm not speaking of. I'm not speaking as Alexander. And so, the idea which Freud continued with whatever weakness or critics I can say, but he didn't refuse to give up. He refused to give up the idea from the classical psychology from the 19th century that the first perspective, the first person is important. So theory, psychological or social psychological theory has to be in the first person. Yeah. So this was very revolutionary actually. Whatever shit Freud maybe somebody can say, okay, but one has to accept what he did. This is I can't tell you. I can't tell some other who is famous or known who did refuse to give up, but because with the money coming for research and for academic prestige, all the stuff from 19th century this disappeared because even Wundt, maybe you have heard the word Wundt, yeah, Wilhelm Wundt, yeah, which was a very famous, yeah, Wundt always spoke about two psychologies, but one disappeared. Yeah, nobody spoke about it. And even he wrote more and more and more about the second, which disappeared actually. Yeah? But he was declared the Tsar of the founder of modern psychology. But speaking only of the one half. But about the other half, they didn't mention yet. Yeah? So, which meant this it was not a kind of competition. It was out. And the last decades, of course, things changed. So this is why I said we are not in the same bad situation like 50 years ago. It's of course the world is moving in contradictions. Yeah, the things become worse, but some other things are better. Or yes, and even for the perspective of social movement. And this is our question, our task, to contribute in some way in this other perspective of producing of knowledge and production of knowledge. Yeah, in this social movement perspective. Which not only accepts differences between the individuals, but starts from the first person. Yeah. So what are the values, and what are the aims, and what kind of knowledge, and what kind of questions I need there, and what kind of methods I need there in order to have this kind of knowledge. Yeah. If you don't are interested in subjectivity, you are fine with quantitative methods. For example, yes. But it's not a methodological question. It's a question of which kind of knowledge I need, yeah, or whatever. But the social movements have other kind of questions, other values, other perspectives, so they need other ideas, other concepts, for example, yeah. And this it's not something which is produced, we have to read it, but it's things we have to contribute, yeah, in the field, in different fields. I think not, for me, psychology, somebody else in some other field, but this is, and this is a chance, because society is changing, in a historical, how to say, it's a historical change, it's not something small, it's a historical change, yeah? like 100 years ago. Not even Fordism is changing the neoliberalism, also the national state is the idea of having a lot of national states which are, how to say, like niche, ecological niche, competing, even this is changing with globalization or whatever, however one should,
Corporation.
So the whole world is changing its organization, not only the labor organization thing, so, which means we are in a historical epoch, yeah, which the whole, the way modern world is organized is being changed. So everything is in question. Even the disciplinary boundaries, what psychology is also has to do with decisions and dominations in the beginning of the 20th century. If you take some research, it was not clear in 1905 that this is psychology and not anthropology, for example. Or this is history or not whatever, yeah? Even what for us, these disciplinary boundaries are product of this process in the beginning of the 20th century. It's not a natural or super historical, even for philosophy. Yeah? So 150 years ago, everything was philosophy. Wundt was a professor of philosophy.
Even Newton. Newton first wrote a book, the mathematician principles, all of philosophy, and so on. Yeah. There was no philosophy in this sense how we are studying today. No?
Of course not.
Yes.
But there was Goethe who's saying, Mephisto, who is saying, I have studied everything,
Yeah.
every force. There were 4 faculties, yeah?
Yeah.
The 4 faculties, yeah? The philosophy, law, medicine, and theology. And all of it, and the 3 others remained, and whatever we know since the 19th century, has developed out from philosophy.
Yeah.
And we have law, we have theology still, we have medicine, but all the humanities, all the whatever it is they are called, are developed from the differentiation
even
from
theology,
philosophy.
even theology, and also medicine. If we go more.
He claims that he's changing. The theology is changed.
No. She is arising from a field of philosophy. No. Philosophy is a ground.
I agree, but I'm speaking about formalization and academic.
Of course.
So this is why I'm taking Goethe as example, where Mephisto says that I have studied everything. I have finished all the 4 faculties. Yeah, and which are the 4? Yeah, he didn't knew about history and literature and sociology and psychology and whatever, yeah. And psychology is very young. I don't know in Macedonia, but in Greece we had 1993 the first psychological department, yeah. It's not very fast, very long ago, yeah.
Macedonia is more younger than Greece, so maybe later, maybe after constituting our faculty and university here in Skopje.
Or maybe that's an influence from Yugoslavia, we don't know.
Of course Yugoslavia.
Maybe it had some that taking over
they founded psychology in a time when it is changing, yeah? It is maybe splitting up. We don't know, but they don't know psychology, although the other faculties, or the other look, if this is what also again about the social movement. Social movements are about social issues, and social issues are not following the academic fragmentation. So in academia, it's fragmented this reality, but reality is not fragmented, yeah.
And social movement need interdisciplinary methods who.
Yes, but this idea of interdisciplinarity presupposes that there is a kind of disciplinary fragmentation in academia.
Yeah, of course.
The reality is in one integration. So one problem is one issue. So why is this a psychological or a sociological issue?
Yeah.
No, it's a social issue. Yeah.
There are different points of view
Yes,
the kind of reality.
And these different perspectives on a social issue were canonized and formalized in disciplines because of having professors and having students and giving diplomas and having
Discipline and
workers. Is organization of labor. Yeah? Fragmented. For this tailorization and giving up. You work, you do this, and there's a kind of a fragmentation before, yeah. And Taylorism is nothing else to fragment the content, what is to be done in as many functional units as possible, yeah. In order to give them to different persons, which is very good because you can control them by this way. This was Taylor was promising when he was selling his idea of how to reorganize industrial labor. He said, why should some owner of a factory give him money to make his studies in factory? His suggestion, his promise was to control laborers. Because before the factories in the 19th century, before Taylorism, the workers had a lot of power because they knew how to organize the labor. And with Taylorist organization, you took the power from the people who are doing the work and bring the power to the administration. They decide what to do, how to do, and this is a very, very elementary, how to say, intervention, yeah. And this has consequences, yeah, for producing laborers, wage laborers, who are just working, applying, performing. Not thinking and not talking about why, how, what. Others decide. If we have this in school, this is Sophia's club. She's not here, so the teacher. Yeah. So, yeah. One thing which does not change 100 years in schools is this: the teacher decides, and the pupils have to follow.
Yeah,
so the teacher decides what the pupils have to learn. Yeah.
Critical pedagogy, I think.
This is the basis of education system. Yeah.
No participation.
No participation.
Yeah, the subject who has to learn has no word to say about what to learn and how to learn. Yeah.
There is an instance which is active, instance which is passive, and passive are pupils or students.
And this does not change. 100 years. Yeah. We have so many
and
educational reforms.
That is a real shape of the society, you know, where we have the same control and the same.
I agree.
And the dominant narrative is how you are uneducated, how you're going to create education. That's the dominant narrative. Yeah.
But we can do this another time, but this is my field. So learning theories are reproducing this.
I like this field.
And the problem for the system is, for the machine is that the new learning theories doesn't fit in this model. So if you want to apply the new learning theories, if you want to exploit, let's say, more, then you can't do this with this system. This doesn't work.
Of course, yes.
No, so this is a very big, huge issue. So where the system, where the power, because since 100 years ago, as we said in the beginning, helping and controlling. If you want to control somebody, then you have to educate him. Yeah? Marx says this is a basic contradiction for the capitalists. If they want to exploit the laborers, they have to educate them. They have to train them. But to train them only as much they need to work, but not more.
To be conscious.
To get more knowledge about the relations, and then they will be dangerous. Yeah. Whatever. Marx didn't speak about that, but know more about the context they are, and maybe demand more. Yeah. And this is exactly the point with modern learning theories. So you say, saying that, you can't, as long as somebody is not included in this whole process, so as we said, controlling and applying, performing. So which means there's a kind of level of exploitation you can't overcome. So if you want to exploit them more, you have to reorganize. But then you come in the sector of education in our societies. You come in very, very, very central problems, because even in Greece, even in every country, the functions of the education system are different and contradictory. So, and only one is education. So the other is controlling. So if you don't overthrow the control moment, you can't push and develop the educational aspect. Yeah, and this is also not only our problem; it's also a system problem or power problem. Yeah, it's not only we are not inventing issues or problems. The system itself has some big problems, which has to even the power has problems which has to solve. Yeah. So I stop here.
Yeah, okay. So you're teaching about Paulo Freire in university?
I'm
About
teaching
Paulo Freire?
Freire.
Paulo Freire is a teacher. My colleagues are teaching, they're talking about Paulo Freire. Yeah?
Yeah.
But I think in a wrong way, even if they're far leftists, but wrong way. Because yes, but I'm teaching about learning, not about teaching. My issue is learning. I'm a psychologist.
Yeah.
The others are and this is what I try to one thing, what I want my students to remember is that learning is something and teaching is something different. Because there are teachers and say, I'm teaching, and because I'm teaching, the children are learning. No. This is the fantasy of the teachers, yeah? I'm teaching in this way, and if I'm teaching this way, then I have this effect. No, you will not. There's a subject which is independent from teaching.
Yes.
So this is learning. Learning has to do with the learner, not with the teacher.
Yeah.
But try to convince the teachers about this.
Maybe the right claim would be we are learning.
This is very revolution. But ask 10 teachers if they learn something. They will say no.
No, of course,
But now we are in the contradictions of everyday school and education.
Of course.
Yeah, because the teachers are paid to teach, not to learn.
Not to learn.
If they say I learned something, this is weakness.
This is how the liberal democracy is functioning, you know.
No,
I teach, you learn.
Don't go that far away because you're getting money. I'm getting money. I'm professor. I have not to talk about the teachers. I cannot talk about me. If I say I'm getting money from the state to go to my students to learn something, they will say, "Oh, I pay you for learning? Are you crazy? They pay me for teaching." So I have to keep this as a yes. I'm not speaking about it. I'm speaking also how many colleagues of mine are accepting that this has to do with us, not a professor being professor or something, whatever. We're bringing the light to the world, no.
Yeah.
So, but this has to do with this scheme. We are working there. We are doing work there. Labor work, wage labor, and this has consequences. Yeah, wage labor is in a certain way organized. And neoliberalism is reorganizing this in a very, very radical way, which is still open, where it will go, but it has already qualitative sides, which are not functional with the traditional organization. So this is why neoliberalism is revolutionary. Yes, in a sense of Marx, overthrowing the existing thing. It is overthrowing. If they want to exploit more the creativity of persons, and who is creative? Persons. Humans are creative, yeah? So if you want to exploit productivity and creativity of persons, then you have to think about the organization of this, yeah? And the traditional organization, the Fordist, so let's say in the slogan, the Fordist organization of labor, of exploitation of working creativity and productivity is not enough anymore, yeah? And this gives us perspectives and hope. So, because in this, if the system has to change the system, then we can maybe influence something, yeah?
Yeah, but neoliberals are changing the system, not we.
No, neoliberalism is not, there are not neoliberals.
Yeah.
There are certain assholes who are supposing things, but neoliberalism is the idea, let's say the concept, how the system tries to change things, yeah? And there this is our point, where we can try to influence so that what will come out will be again a kind of compromise. Because Gramsci is saying it's a class compromise. Before this was a class compromise. Which means a class compromise between the capitalists and the labor movement. And what we had 100 years now as a dominant thing was a compromise. It was not an imposition from the capitalists. They would have other ideas to what to impose, but it was a compromise because you have a struggle. Don't laugh. But which means for this, but for us it's important to say what we see in reality is always a compromise. Because if you accept that this is, as Marx says in the Communist Manifest, the history is the history of class struggle. Yes, class struggle means struggling, and in a struggle, you make compromises. And now, and what neoliberalism at the moment is a kind. The bourgeoisie has how to say, they gave up the class compromise. They withdraw from the class compromise. They try to do something else. So they didn't accept this historical compromise, and said, no, we don't work anymore on this frame. We try something different here. And this is actually what we have now. Because of course, as a response to the achievements of the labor movement, of the social movements here. But now we are in the different discussions of if you agree with the autonomous Marxism of Federici, Cafenzis, these comrades, they say this the bourgeoisie did this because of the achievements of before, the people, the liberal movement, the labor movement. So they try to counteract to these achievements, and they invented several ideas, like neoliberal ideas in economy, in order to move this class compromise. So we have in the situation we are is on the way to a new class compromise or to slavery. This is the. But I think important, even from an epistemological perspective, which is my job, so to say, is that praxis, what we see in reality, in praxis, always has to do with compromises. So there is no, actually normally there is no somebody that is so powerful to impose what he or she wants for 100%. So what we see in reality is there are compromises, and we have to think what were the conflicting or the subjects who are fighting, and how came it that what we see is a compromise. So what we see is a compromise. Even in learning, what somebody learns is a compromise. The children going to school, not a teacher puts them in so that the children are fighting with demands and confinements and opportunities, and yes, the subjects are active.
And the best students are.
But what comes out from school or from education, from participation, is a compromise, which means bad things and good things, but both. Not never only one, not only one. We have to analyze what is bad and what is good, for who is bad, for who is good. But this idea of that struggle means compromise. And whatever we do, even learning is a struggle. With the system tries to impose, to control you, but has to educate you also. And so and you as an individual with your resources, you try to go along, to develop yourself, to gain something, but you make also compromises. Okay. So I don't know the other questions, but.
Thank you a lot. Thank you for coming. Thank you for these 2 days. I hope
We're not finished. We have all some years.
The revolution afterwards.
Revolution is going on all the time.
Endless.